We have Governor Bobby Jindal, the former presidential candidate, Louisiana governor, who has formally endorsed Marco Rubio in this race. He joins us now on the phone. Okay, Governor, where are you on all of this? I mean, with the Marco Rubio tit for tat with Donald Trump last night, and all of these guys saying at the end they would support whoever that eventual nominee is. Do you really see that happening? After all, the guy you're backing has called, Donald Trump a con man.
Well, Neil, first of all, thank you for having me. I think today marks the beginning of the end of Donald Trump. Not only does he not show up at CPAC, he's too scared to come on your show. How can the man be president of the United States? Look, I was telling your producer before, you are fair to every guest. You are tough. You ask the hard questions, but you're fair to everybody. If he can't show up on your show, I don't think he's qualified to be president.
Well, candidates are free to do what they want to do. I certainly can't get inside their heads or their campaigns. But look, that happens. Hope springs eternal. But having said that, I'm curious, Governor, with Marco Rubio right now, do you see him having a path to the nomination? Because it would almost take for the other guys, prevailing wisdom was risky, that it would be a brokered convention that could give them a shot at that.
Well,
right?
Two things. First, you asked about the Republican candidate supporting the Republican nominee, and then secondly, Marco's path. First of all, absolutely, I would expect the candidates to support the nominee. Look, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. I started criticizing him earlier than most. I was doing that early last fall. I don't think he's a conservative. But the reality is you look at who the Democrats are about to nominate. We cannot afford 4 more years of these policies under Hillary Clinton. We cannot afford a socialist in Bernie Sanders. They would ruin the economy, continue to ruin our foreign policy. Secretary Clinton already made a mess of our foreign policy during her years working in the Obama administration. So I'm obviously for Marco. I want him to be our nominee. But, of course, I wouldn't expect anybody running for president as a Republican to support Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or a Democrat. In terms of Marco's pathway and the whole talk of a brokered convention, look, I trust the judgment of the voters. I don't want this to be decided by party leaders or elites or, no offense, media pundits or anybody else. Let the voters vote. And, yes, we've gone through a bunch of states, but there are a whole lot more states to go. Obviously, the longer there are more candidates in this race, the tougher it is to beat Donald Trump. But I trust the wisdom of the American people. And I think as they hear Donald Trump say everything is negotiable, I think they're going to begin to realize this man's not a real conservative. Look, the Second Amendment is not negotiable. Sanctity of human life is not negotiable. Religious liberty is not negotiable. Our standing with Israel is not negotiable. So when Donald Trump says everything is subject to negotiation, I think we're beginning to see the only thing he really believes in is his own promotion, his own election. He's backed off everything from his immigration stance. Today he backtracked on torture. He's backtracked on a variety of issues, on the sanctity of human life, on our Second Amendment rights. Neil, he has flip-flopped on so many positions.
But, you could argue, Governor, we all evolve and we all change. And as a businessman, naturally he's going to be open to making a deal. And it can't be your way or the highway. In fact, that's what got us in a lot of the messes we're in Washington, hasn't it? Well,
but I think you have to be dedicated to core principles. Nobody, for example, minds if he's negotiating on the edges, on the periphery, but something as fundamental as, for example, our religious liberty rights, that's not negotiable. He was asked directly with Scalia's passing, the most important decision the next president will make will be appointing a Supreme Court justice to replace Justice Scalia. We already have a court that was likely hung up 4-4 on the sanctity of human life, Second Amendment, religious liberty. On something like religious liberty, that is the First Amendment of the Constitution. It's a foundational right in our country. I don't want somebody who's going to negotiate that away. Yes, do I want a president who will work with both sides to unify them and do what's best for our country? Yes, but I want that president to be guided by core convictions and principles. Look, President Obama has been determined to remake America in his vision of what it should look like, more dependence on government, more borrowing, Obamacare, and the rest of it. I want a president from the conservative, the Republican side, just as determined to get America back on the right path, not somebody who's going to just make deals with Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and sacrifice our principles.
All right, Governor Jindal, thank you very, very much.